I bought a case for the 12th gen system that I built a while ago, and I even recorded a video putting the stuff in the case, but then accidentally deleted the files and they couldn't be recovered. I didn't want to record that again because that was annoying. So instead we'll have a look at an update. The case is a Mechanic Master C34, and it's a very compact case that can fit up to E80X boards depending on the size of your power supply. The power supply I got was huge, which was probably a mistake because at the time I didn't know what case I was going to get. So now I've got the smaller power supply that we saw in the other video about the 13th gen system. We're going to put this power supply into this case today to get it a bit more room and finish it off a bit better. And this case is flexible. You can do M80X or ATX boards by changing this back part, although you have to buy that separately. And it has multiple ways you can mount your power supply. If you're doing the all-in-one water cooling thing and you mount the radiator at the top, you can put your power supply in here, that configuration, or you can put the power supply mounted from the back sticking upwards. And similarly with your graphics card, you can put that in a vertical orientation, which is what I was going to do originally because I didn't think it would fit, but turns out there's a problem in this case, and there's a fold of metal from the bottom going up to here, which means you can't mount anything in this bottom slot, and the bottom slot's the only place you can put the Thunderbolt expansion. So instead I had to get a riser thing for the Thunderbolt card and mount it here, since I was going to try cutting off this bracket. You can see the line where I was going to cut that down so it could mount in the bottom. I was able to squeeze the graphics card into the normal slot, so that's how it worked out. The drive there, that's not the final one I'm going to use. That's there temporarily on the outside. Come with this screwdriver. It's an industry screwdriver. That's how you know it's good. So we're going to get rid of this drive today because I'm not using that one long term. And also because that's got Windows 11 on it, and Windows 11 is stupid, and we're going back to Windows 10 because it's a lot better, a lot faster, and looks nicer, and includes features that you need, which they've removed from Windows 11. So you can see there, it was a very, very tight fit, and you can't connect up the other PCIe cable because the graphics card is pushing on the connectors and blocking the connector where you join the other PCIe. That's going to get rid of that. Put in the small power supply. This seems good. It's small and pretty much the same power level as this one. I think it's the same, and supposedly the same amount of efficiency. It's also really quiet, and the price of this wasn't very high either. And the cables are much nicer, as we discussed in the other video. So yeah, I'd get that over this again if I was going to. So let's pull this thing out. It's a U2 drive, so it's got an adapter. And don't need that anymore. So this is going into the M2 slot down here. That adapter thing. We're going to have to take everything apart because we have to get the power supply out, so we've got to take that out, which means we've got to take that out. And then to take the power supply out, we've got to take these top and front covers off. Front is pretty nice, quite clean. And I also want to make some sort of ducting to prevent any of the warm air coming off the CPU from mixing in the case. So we want to duct it straight out this quite good vent at the back. And I also want to make sure that the warm air from this graphics card doesn't get into here. So I'd like to make that duct continue over, although we're going to have to change that up a bit because with a small power supply we're not going to have this quite good barrier. This has got its fan on this side, so it can only bring in warm air from outside, and it vents out the top. There's grills on the top. So we'll take it all apart. Unplug that riser, and then we've got those other annoying cables. In the previous video I took this all apart and had an investigation of this Thunderbolt adapter, but then most of that got deleted So anyway, we don't have that. Yeah, what it has is, we'll go over it briefly. There's, as suspected, one of the grounds on this extra 12-volt input is got a pull-up on it, and so when you plug in the cable to give the extra 12 volts, it senses that being pulled to ground, and then it knows that you've connected the extra 12-volt power supply, and then it allows the Thunderbolt ports to run much higher power, up to 100 watts on one of them, I think, and 60 watts on the other one, so you can charge computers and things from it. I had a look at this card, and it does seem to have what I thought there. We can see there is a small track coming off that, and on the bottom that pad is not connected to anything, where these other two look like a ground. So they will be sensing on this wire that you've plugged it in some resistors there. That might be a pull up, and then that gets pulled down through the cable that you plug in to detect it. That's the power supply controller chip, the USB ports. And I thought it was quite interesting here that they're using the way they enter the pad to help add length to the track to length match, since that one there will be longer because it's going around the outside of that turn. So this one needs to have some wigglies added to balance the length with the other one. So they've done that by entering the capacitor pad on the inside or the edge there, same with that, to add a bit more length to that track to help balance it out. And similarly, they're doing that on the Thunderbolt lines too. You can see that straight, whereas that one comes in the pad on the side. So that's pretty interesting. Has to be very, very precisely length matched. Current shunt there. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, if you use a good flash and not lots of light, then it can help see where the tracks are on these black solder mask boards. It's quite hard to see otherwise where the tracks are. The other thing is, these slots are offset from the main board a bit, so it was really hard to plug in to these connectors because they're too far close to this lip. It's a nice case, but the design of it is a little bit off. Now I'm gonna have to work out how to release the latch. That's very difficult on this board. Well, difficult in this configuration because it's down there. Okay. Graphics card comes out. It's a tight fit. Maybe if I knew I was getting such a small case, I could have got a smaller graphics card. Now, in order to get the power supply out, we've got to take the top and the front outer panels off. Now we can see the top edge of the power supply here. There are 4 screws that hold a bracket which holds the power supply in place. So we'll loosen those off, and then we'll take them off, and then we'll have to support the power supply. To finish undoing these screws, because it will fall down otherwise. There's a power input, the AC power input in the back corner there, comes into this cable with a slim right angle connector on it. Now the power supply can come out. Alright, now we get out these extra power cables. Just get that out of the way. And we'll put in the new ones. I'm wondering, it's probably the same, because it's got those 2 separate things. I wonder if they are the same. I don't know. This one is very horrible because it's got that huge stiff lump on it, which makes it really difficult to route it in a tidy way. Yeah, I did do a big rant about how stupid that is in the video that got deleted. So yeah, it's not a very nice way of presenting the cables. Alright, this front USB stuff which come on these nice flat cables. Now we got to get everything put back in the power supply, because it's SFX, the small style. It comes with this bracket so that you can mount it in a normal ATX way. Oh, we got to get the bracket off the other power supply. There's a special bracket that came with the case for attaching to the power supply. So now we're going to attach the bracket to this bracket and then that to the power supply. And we also need to work out which way round the power supply is going to go, because again, this can go around either way, and I'm not sure whether it matters that much. I suppose we should keep it the same, and so the fresh air can come in from the outside. Would that be a better choice? I think it's symmetric on this, so that it does not matter which way round you put that on the power supply. Everything's symmetric. Okay. They're not countersunkers though, they're countersunk. That's rough, isn't it? Does it matter? No. We could use these countersunk ones that came with the case to make it look nicer. Well, you would never be able to see it. Okay. Now we mount that onto this bracket. Like that. And then that will allow that to go into the case. Okay, this is ready to go in the case, but we want to put some kind of foam around the edge so that the hot air coming out of it doesn't leak back into the case. It's just... it's much smaller, isn't it? I think I found the good stuff. It's some packaging foam, and the shape of it seems to fit in there, which is quite surprising and good. You can cut out this middle part, since that seems to be what we want. I might pull these out so that we can work on it better and install it easier. Okay. Now we need to work out the height. And cut it down in half. Now that will go in there. And then the hot air coming out of the power supply won't mix with the air in the case. Which is great. We just need to make this edge a bit thinner. So that it doesn't block off some of the vents. Okay, so we've made a baffle. Perhaps what I'll do is put some tape. I need to put some tape to stop that from accidentally squeezing itself over. But there's no airflow in that part there either, because that's blocked off by parts and that's filled up with wires. So I don't think we need to worry about that. Great, let's mount this in the case. These nice flat cables, so you can get a good bend going as long as they've got somewhere to go. So that they can get longer. Oh, would that even be long enough? That's a bit dodgy, isn't it? Guess we'll find out. Hope it's long enough. Now this is going in here. Oh, I didn't leave a notch for the power cable to come in to this area. We'll just cut that away there. Okay, that's going there. Work out the orientation of this so that the power cable stays rolled up nicely. Seems like it's backwards compared to what the other one was doing. Maybe I should have. Let's get some tape down that edge so that that stays in position. Okay, it's lined up. Get some screws in there. Alright, got a bit more room now. So can we join up these cables? I think we can I think they just fit. Okay, that's not bad. Fairly tidy. That's good, we got the air sealed off like that so that hot air won't blow into the case. That's really nice. And we've got to get this in. It's a bit weird because there's a join between the two plugs that's in an awkward position. I'll hide as much of this cable under the power supply as possible by pushing it in there, because I think I might put a fan here to help get a little bit of airflow. I won't need a huge amount because I've found when I'm doing the most hardcore gaming that I do, the CPU, the fans on the power supply only turn on sometimes for a while, so I don't think I'm giving it much to do. So we're going to need one more. Well, we're going to need several more. We need the graphics card connector, and we're going to need one of the SATAs. I've got another drive. I'm not using that, so I want to put a cover over that. I think I saved some materials. Special piece of stuff to put over that to stop it going bad. And that probably already has, because I don't need to put a drive in that for now. And then I can put the... Oh, it's not that one, is it? Okay, this cover's going to have to stay off, but if I can find the other one, we'll put it back on there. This thing. Put that on, since they don't need to put a drive in there. I keep changing my mind about what computer things I want, although that makes it harder to get the graphics card out if we ever need to do that again. Anyway, I got this drive, which is a pretty nice Samsung 7.6 terabytes PCIe 4 drive, which is U2 interface, and I've got this adapter for that, so it can come off of the NVMe slot down there. Now I've tested that all works. Now I've mounted it in this ice pack heatsink from a Velociraptor drive with thermal interface all the way underneath it, because this gets hot. And hopefully with that in this, now I could mount it around two ways. There's provisions on the bottom of the case for mounting it, and I cut these notches out because it was going to conflict with the screws that hold the feet on. But I might have changed my mind and now I want to put it around that way. I don't know, I'll try and work that out again. I have to take the bottom off for that. Yeah, so I think now this riser is there, that might be different. Hopefully that doesn't interfere with that. Well, if it went around the other way, it's going to interfere even more because there aren't other mountings up here, I don't think. There's so many different holes on the bottom here. So many places that things could be mounting. So anyway, this is going around this way on the bottom there. And hopefully the bottom of the case will help add a little bit more heat sinking. I'll have to just monitor the temperature of the drive. I want it to stay less than 40 hopefully. With no heatsink it goes over 50 pretty easily. but with the heatsink added it seemed to calm down quite a bit. It's still in still air. It can warm up. Now that needs a SATA power connector, so we have to get one of those in, unfortunately. Which adds a bit of mess into the case. And then I suppose we should do the right thing and join up both PCI power connectors, although I want one of them to go over to that Thunderbolt card. Now we have to work out how to get this. We put in. We put the graphics card in, because then we're gonna put in the Thunderbolt card. Although I still need to make a bracket to hold the riser in the right position. That might get deferred indefinitely since the card kind of holds it up okay by itself. If it was a graphics card, it would need a holder because it's too heavy to sit by itself. So I worked out what this other thing. They come with this box of screws, and it says PCI. And I was wondering what is that talking about, and it means this thing here and that pad. You screw in these slots somewhere along there, and you can use it to hold up your graphics card to stop that sagging down. So we might see if we can get that in, because yeah, it's heavy graphics card. I have to take the back off and then work out where in these positions we can get that in there. So maybe that's the next step. Although with the graphics card in, it becomes more difficult to put the other stuff in. But the graphics card has to be in before we can get the Thunderbolt in. I'll just work out what to do and then tell you what happened. Alright, I think the hardest part's going to be trying to get these annoying, very stiff, thick cables with delicate connectors on that you need for the Thunderbolt card. Get those tidy. I'm going to put the bottom on now, and that way those cables can be tucked against it, since we've got this drive in. So you can put fans on the bottom if you wanted to. There's various mounting holes for that. Okay, we'll put the graphics card in, and then we'll fix the other stuff up, and then we're probably done. It doesn't need much more. I was able to get that other plate that covers the M2 stuff in on top of that riser thing, which kind of worked, just so that I don't lose that plate. Otherwise, yeah, it's just going to disappear, isn't it, if it doesn't have anywhere to live. So we'll get these in, connect these cables up so they're ready, and then we put graphics card in. Oh yeah, then we do that back brackety thingy. Much easier when it's not clashing against the power supply, isn't it? Yeah. Since it's being used so weekly, only once a week, because of my lack of hardcore gamingness, it's not really going to matter that we're only using one of the power connectors, because like it's barely drawing anything. Oh, it only needs, okay, that one will go there then. Those extra two things that are separate, are they just more grounds? I can't remember. I remember it being a stupid specification that should never have happened, because they should have just used the EPS 12 volts. The 8-pin and 4-pin versions of that should be what's on graphics cards, so that the power supply only needs to have one standard of connector on it. Like, why invent another one that's the same thing but just with the pinout reversed? Stupid. Tidy there. Wow, it's a little bit tidy maybe. Since we got the front off, I can see what's going on down there. Is there a position that this bracket thing can go that holds it up? Because it looks like where I'd need it is between where the slots are in the back panel. But you can put it up either way, which should take care of that. Yeah, it's in between the slots, so it might work. But probably if I don't put that foam thing on, because that'll make it too big. Anyway, let's try and install it. Heavy thing. So the back panel is just a punched thing, so it would allow some ventilation. They come with a glass side, which is a bit naff. You can get vented sides like this metal ones, but it was very expensive The whole thing was very expensive, so I decided to just keep the glass one for now. That's what the back of the thing looks like. Now we want, see these slots here, so with all these mounting holes here, it allows you to put the power supply in there, which is quite nice if that's what you want to do. And then with this extension here, I think that's how you can get the EATX maybe. Seems pretty well done. It's got tall enough standoffs that I'll be able to put that 13th gen board in here, because I don't know, I'm gonna have to look at other cases for that. Anyway, that's a matter for another day. So this is about trying to get that stupid thing lined up enough. What kind of screw you use for that? Guess these ones. Oh, it's just on the edge of not working in either direction. Oh, graphics card won't be sagging anytime soon, and it's probably bent upwards now. You bend the bracket by pushing on the graphics card. Awesome. Okay, that's straight, so that's good. We can put this cover back on the back side. Now we might be ready for a smoke test if we want to do one of those. Make sure all the smoke stays in. It is good when the smoke stays in. You get this case with yellow, which is quite exciting. Shame you couldn't get it with blue, or green, or red. Put the Thunderbolt card in. Okay, this thing, you see, that's a removable extra bracket thing, which I think there's a blanking plate if you don't want that. There's various weird plates and things. And, well, maybe there's not. Anyway, we're using it. Annoyingly, it can't use this one because the graphics card is so tall that it blocks that. So yeah, this is bad. They should make it more compact. And the cooling won't be as good. So I suppose if I got one with has less fans, then they would run all the time because there's not enough heatsink area for the thermal mass. So these cables, why did they make them so long when you can only plug the card into the end slot? Doesn't make sense. They should just do another little socket off to the side and yeah, do it in a nicer way. Because this is pretty disgusting with that thick heat shrink stuff on it, and then that just goes to a really delicate little connector. Should cut that off. I don't know. It's already peeled back. We've got to try and get it mounted in there so that these cables aren't touching the fans. Thunderbolt on these new builds has been a disaster. Not the thing that I wanted most. Since most of my hardware I want to connect externally and only when I need it. It's just been so annoying. Maybe we can plug them in later. Okay, let's just get this thing in here. Yeah, I should have got the riser that had just the short plug on it, which was an option, but I didn't pick it because I was expecting at that time to put the graphics card in there. Oh, why doesn't this go in anymore? It came out like this. Oh, it's because it's supposed to go in that way. Okay, that's what the problem is. Yeah, it is interfering with that drive mount a little bit, but it is mostly still plugged in. And then there's the other little bracket thing that goes in there. I think it's that. Okay, let's try and join up these wires. I did wonder, can it reach? You might be able to use both. Let's see. It'd be better to go that side first, to keep the crossover of that tidier. Nice because they can fit under the corner of the graphics card. I feel like it's going to be just millimeters too short. Oh, that's annoying. So close. Oh, look at that. It doesn't reach by... Like, if it was just 5 millimeters longer, we could join it. That is so stupid. Okay, well, There you go then. Unless I get an extension cord of some sort, we will be using, yeah, a separate cable for that. And the same cable for this graphics card, which is not ideal, but that's how they designed it, so too bad. Now these extra, it's the USB 1 or 2 data, USB-C ports of the Thunderbolt, because that just passes straight through. You don't even have to power that card up to get that USB, just wires straight onto them. And then there's this other stuff which is like enable and I2C or ECM bus or something, which they just put in just to make sure that this is incompatible with any other system, which is very annoying, just so they can make it difficult. That's good. It's not touching any other things, and there's a reasonable amount of space here that a small fan could be attached. Before we continue, I want to check that this powers up fine. So let's test that. Should just boot up, hopefully. We've got a dock joined to the Thunderbolt. So we can check that that works. Thunderbolt is incredibly temperamental. Okay, some kind of light come on down there. What input are we on? 2. Alright, let's see what happens. Ideally, it won't see anything as being different to before because we put everything back where it came. There we go. So it should just start booting up. Yes, there's a light on that little adapter. Oh, awesome. It did a blue screen. Okay. Maybe it's not very happy about something. I suppose it's possible that drive got corrupted since... Wow, I don't know. I was using it for benchmarking before. I don't know if they made a video about that. Maybe. Oh yeah, we did it when we were checking that other system with the booting from Thunderbolt and then benchmarking the Thunderbolt on the 13th gen system. After that I did other benchmarking where I was checking file copy performance between PCIe 4 drives, trying to get that as fast as possible. And after that, that corrupted that little 2 terabyte M2 drive for some unknown reason, so maybe it's corrupted this too. I don't know why, it just corrupted after that, but yeah, it seems like it doesn't want to boot anymore, doesn't it? Which is a bit weird. It detects the drive fine, and it's not bootable anymore. I guess we'll reinstall Windows then, I suppose. I don't know. I'll see what I can do. Oh, okay. Maybe the computer just has to be standing upright. I don't understand what that means. Why didn't it work before? Oh, we needed to prove that. Did the Thunderbolt work? Thunderbolt doesn't work very often. Oh no, look at that. It says it's connected, so I guess we're all good then? I don't know what the problem is, but this drive doesn't seem to be working at its usual high performance, and it keeps blue screening when you try to boot up. So I'm going to try changing it to the other NVMe slot, because I don't know what else to do, and I'm pretty sure I was trying it. Last time I was using it, it was on the end one on this side. So that's the only thing I can think of, other than maybe that metal plate that I screwed down pressed on something and messed it up. But I don't know. Now I did a looking in Crystal Disk Info. It is running at PCIe 4 speeds as expected, but when you do disk mark, for some reason the read is either 1 or 2 gigabytes per second where it's supposed to be 7. So there's clearly something wrong with it. I'll change it around and yeah, see what happens. Alright, that seems a little bit better now. Getting results more close to what I was expecting. I don't know why it was bad before, but it was getting barely 900 read. Should be around 7,000. That's what I've seen previously on that drive. So I've moved the drive now to be connected to the NVMe slot that's on that side rather than that side, and I haven't screwed this metal plate thing over it. I don't know, either one of those could have messed it up. And when I booted it up this time, it did a disk check and said it was repairing errors, so that's a little bit dodgy. Hopefully it's all good now, and we can have a look at the ventilation. I was wondering, maybe I moved the fan down a bit, a few notches, because it just clips into the side of the heatsink, and that way some air can come out underneath it and blow onto these power regulators and things, because they're going to get quite warm. Then I want to get a sheet of stuff going from here across and over to here, and then something from the top here up to here, so that there's, or maybe from this corner maybe up to there. Because that's forced, it should be okay with that much output, but it would be nice to have a bit of output there, and that way then the input is through here and through here if it needs to be, and the output is out there. And then with that coming across, this part here will be separate, and I'm going to look for a little fan that I can stick in the front here. Let's see what I've got. I might run out of time today though to finish this off and have to carry it on later. We'll see what happens. I've got to rummage up some bits and pieces to get this build, get the baffles and things going. Just by running this top test again, now that one's sped up a bit since before, but that one there is slightly lower. It seems there's a lot of things out of my control which affect the speed of the drive. It's now 2 weeks later, and some things have happened and changed. I tried with this fan here, and that keeps the drive cold, which is good, but this doesn't fit because there's the holes that I put there for 120mm fans. This is 80, and so I ordered another fan that we can try. It's a slim fan, which I think is important because there's a very small amount of room there. So let's get that out and have a look at it. It was expensive. One concern I have is there's going to be the grill of the front panel there. I don't really want to mount a fan directly on that grill because that's likely to be a bit noisy, but it looks like this comes with some kind of standoffy thing. So we'll see what that's all about, and hopefully it will work. So I was thinking maybe I should make a standoff thing, like with some screws and some tape around the edge to block the air. Comes with all these various cable things that we don't need. Okay, it's pretty thin. It's a 4-wire PWM fan. There's a bunch of headers down there for fans. So let's get these things. We might not be able to use these things. Presumably those go through there. Okay, but the problem is we're going to have to, the front panel is going to get squeezed onto that. So we'll probably have to cut it flush. Okay, that's better, the upper position. So my other choice was, what I was thinking of doing was just getting some longer nuts and bolts and putting those in. Okay, we've got that connected up. So at first, it's going to have to go that way because I want to bring air in. I was planning to not use any case fans because I thought there would be no point, but with the way I want to have ducts and things going, it seemed like it probably would be necessary to at least have a bit of airflow. At least there's a fan manager program that you can use, so I can have this controlled by the GPU temperature, and that should keep everything nice, hopefully. Good, because it keeps it stood off a bit from the front so that it won't be too loud because of the blades cutting across the surface where the holes from the vent are. You want to keep them a bit away. I can't pull this one because of the angle. Get my hands in there. Alright, that's there in position. It's got these weird floppy bits. Dinguses. Now I'm going to try cutting down the edges of these the ends of these things so that the front panel can go on. It's a little bit dodgy because it might mean that we end up wrecking them. And if that's the case, then we'll go back to nuts and bolts. So perhaps if we use this knife. There you go. Alright, that one there needs to be cut more, but now that we've cut it off, it's difficult. Okay, let's see if we can get the front on with that like that. I'm wondering, do we cut those down now that we've got that in place? Because otherwise it's kind of weird having flappy things flapping around. And so apparently it's got special blade design that makes flow acceleration channels to accelerate the flow. So that's good. Hopefully they'll work their magic and this will be good. I have to just find the panels now. Let's try sticking those on. Here's the top. Let's save that for later. Goes up either way. Hopefully. Oh yeah, that fits on real nice. That's good. But let's leave that. We've confirmed that it fits. There's another important thing to do before we put that on, and that is we need to look at the airflow baffles. As I have made some, I made paper templates to work out the shapes, and then I cut out from this clear plastic stuff which I found was the box that a keyboard came in, so that was useful to keep. Let's install these. There's 3 pieces and they're cunningly shaped. So we got this with a return edge on it and this special angled part. Now that fits into the bottom edge of the heatsink and means that the air that comes through the bottom few fins and through the gap under the heatsink blows through these VRM heatsinks, the power regulator heatsinks, and then this upper bit means that it can come out of the grill at the side here, and then that's a separate that allows that to work independently of the airflow output from the CPU. Yeah, because there's serrations on it, it's quite hard to get this inserted. So that just sits down like that, and that's up the side so the air can come up easily up there. Then we've got this piece which is pretty wonky. Looks like that, and that goes in the hook of that and then ends up in I don't know, some screw holes. Goes up one way because those are offset. So that pushes through the holes, and then that clicks into the heatsink like that. And what the reason for that is it means that the cold air on this side can't mix with the hot air that's coming out of the heatsink on this side, so that when we put in this final piece, it's got these special notches in it. And those allow that to clip into there. This piece which goes down beyond the edge of that M2 heatsink, it's got a little notch there which goes through a vent hole there. And then this final bit, I'm not sure, it's either going to go down part way across that fan so that some of the air comes up, or it's going to get cut so that it ends up at the edge of the fan. So let's try fitting this in and we'll see what we want to do there. Above the fan, and that way we're only relying on the power of this to bring in the air, which is probably fine. Perhaps we should try that first, because this can go quite fast when it needs to, and it can be controlled with a curve and adjustments. So perhaps we'll put that up there like that. But I think what I need to do is cut a notch in the bottom of that so that it can miss the cables, which is something I didn't quite plan for, so I'll sort that out and then we can finish off installing it. Okay, we've got a notch there which should help this go in position. Okay, it is in, and yeah, those clips are quite temperamental. I think it's because it's hard to get them all actually in. When they are all in, it holds quite well. Just wondering, should we cut that even shorter so that it doesn't bow over? And then we're done, because it means, yeah, if that can be a bit straighter, perhaps we need to increase the height of that little mouse bite for the cables. It means you get a clear airflow on both sides of the graphics card caused by this fan, which will just be ticking over, and that will keep this area cold. And then the CPU fan, which we set a medium lowest speed so that it's getting a decent airflow through this area. And the hot air can't go anywhere except out of the case. It can't touch any other parts. So that should help keep the lower section there cooled by the other air which hasn't gone through the heatsink. So that's great. Let's just pull this out and we'll cut this down to there. It'll be fine. And we'll cut this mouse hole thing just a bit bigger. It won't matter if there's a bit of air leaking through. And it's on the cold side anyway. Okay, that's probably way too big now, but there you go, that's what happens. Yeah, because I actually cut it further than what I was going to cut the end of this to a rounded off thing, so it dodges the cables. And it's not going to be under stress anymore because it's not pushing on the cables or pushing against this front edge of the case. Yeah, the only problem is those are not quite positioned right relative to this end, so that doesn't lock itself in. Just a little bit disappointing. The bracket thing that goes in there will help hold that. Let's see what that's sitting here. So that goes in there. I wanted that to let the air in. Well, maybe if I just put the screw in, to let the air out. Yeah, see, that will hold it now. That will stop it sagging down. So there you go. So that won't drop down, droop down and block the airflow. It might a bit at the bottom. Let's see. Yeah, it won't now. That's the airflow guides installed. We'll put the front back on now, and we can put the top on. And then I think we're done with this. That's a computer. Now the bits of material that go through the holes in the top there to hold that guide in, there's little bits of it go through the holes that will just get squished over by the plate, and that's fine. That was intentional because it will hold it in nice and solid. So then all we have to do is put the cover on, the side cover on, and there's a computer done. So there's this glass panel here to go on the front and on the side. Need to have this stuff peeled off. Try not to touch that, so that will get all covered in dust, so that's good. Fingerprints and other things as well. So I have to peel this side off. Put the bolts in. Now, there is a handle to go on the top too, if you want. At least then it will mean that you don't accidentally put stuff on it which blocks the airflow. Okay, this is a bit boring, but I don't know, people like seeing stuff being peeled off, so there you go. So let's peel this off. Great. And while we're on the subject of computer cases, that exciting Pentium 2 system that we set up with Windows 95 and then Windows 98 is finally in a case. It's the case that is going to put that 12th gen system into like an awesome case from back in the day, but this bar was in the way of the CPU cooler, so unfortunately we couldn't do that. Because I was going to do it as a sleeper system to start with, but yeah, then we settled on the other case. So this is all good, except it's a full height case, and that Quadro NVS 280 card that we're using for the graphics, because it supports dual monitors, digital, is only low profile, and I didn't have a full height graphic bracket for that. So I found this off of another graphics card and then traced that through. Luckily that notch already lines up well with the top screw. So we're going to cut this out. And maybe I'll show what the 13th gen system looks like at the moment, because I put that in a case too. It's kind of an old case, but not as old as that one we just looked at. But that might change again too, so stay tuned on for an upcoming video that might be some weeks away. So I got this thing, which is a nibbler. I'm hoping that this steel is nibbleable, depending on how important is it that that is that wide. Okay, very not important. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that making that longer. We can just go down this edge. Yeah, this nibbler might be on its last legs. Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, I thought it could do that kind of stuff. So it's like a toenail clipper kind of thing. It just chops a little bit out each time you do it, which is that little thing there. And hopefully I can get it to not cut my hand too much. See, fancy people have things like this that are pneumatically or electronically actuated. Electrically actuated. But this is a manual one. I think I've just broken it. Alright, great. Alright, I'll get back to you if I can get this to work. Alright, so this is really wrecked now. It got stuck, but it did do a bit more before that happened. And I was able to cut out enough, but it's not quite far enough that over, so I need to get a file and finish that off. Yes, it's left it a bit munted, but we can file it and then squish it a bit. Find some kind of suitable file. A suitable file. Which way did it need to go? That needs cleaning up. Now yeah, I do have a vise, but slightly out of view of this. Just make that nice. Because it leaves, yeah, that thing doesn't cut very nicely at all, so it leaves a torn edge. And then what we need to file, probably need a better file for that, is this. Just do that for a while, and then bring that edge over, and then we should be good. Alright, that has been filed on this edge to bring it over a bit, and it looks like that will fit now. And maybe with some kind of a washery thing we can attach the screw at that end. But at least one will be a lot better than none, because it will hopefully, although that's open at that end, so it's not ideal, but that should, if we can do it up tight enough, should be able to stop the card from popping out, which was the biggest risk, was the card popping out of the socket, the AGP slot, because we really do not want that. We'll reef on this a bit. Without stripping that little thread out. Now this one, yeah, we're going to need a washer that's only has one side active, and so we kind of need this to work again so we can cut down a washer. You see, Something like this, if we could cut the side off of it, would probably work. Oh, they're actually M3 by the look of it, not the 4-40. Yeah, the other problem is that that makes it thicker. So we need to deform the washer so that it pulls downwards. Yeah, I'll think of something. Okay, that was unexpected. This thing lives again by smacking a hammer with pushing a screwdriver down in there to pop that out again. And it's good enough to cut this washer. So I was going to get out hacksaws and things, but I don't need to now. Because that. So there you go. So we'll just tidy up that edge and then we should be good to go. Right, I think I got it sorted. Cut the washer. Filed it so that it's not so sharp, and then I've dished it in a bit by bending it with some pliers. And I think now that will be good enough to fit there. Oh, wow. Yeah, ideally we'd shorten this down a bit as well, because that is not going to go down far enough. But oh no, it looks like it did. Okay. Alright, we don't need to shorten that because it will be fine. Great. Let's do this up nice and tight then. Awesome, look at that. We got a new choice as bracket. As long as the shell of the DMS 59, it's not 60, it's 59 because it's one blocked pin. As long as that fits on there, we'll be good. I kind of got off track from what the original video was supposed to be about, but anyway, this is still about putting computers in cases, so there you go. Great, it doesn't interfere. That's good, so let's put the graphics card in the computer now, and then we'll just check how that fits, and then we should be all done, I guess. Okay, let's try put this card in. Oh, it's a bit too high up. Maybe I can just pack that out a bit and screw it down because, yeah, I don't want to adjust it anymore. But, yeah, that will be good. Just need to space that out a little bit with some kind of packing washer thing. And then it'll be mint. Maybe some kind of thing like that. Rummaging in my collection of washers here. So you need like a mini version of that thing. And then we'll need a longer screw, won't we? If that will work. Yeah, that looks good. Find a screw. I think this is the fine thread types on this case for some reason. Mint means good. There's the washers. So now we've got a very securely installed graphics card. Still got the ISA sound card flapping around in the breeze, but wrap the wire around those brackets a few times so that it doesn't rip out. Anyway, we've sorted that out. So that awesome, very secure graphics card video connector, which is what we need because the cable that goes onto it is very big and heavy. And yeah, you do not want that pulling on the card. So now that will be able to plug in there, connect very securely, and great. That's good. Making progress. Since we're getting off track, here's one more thing that we can look forward to in some upcoming videos. Probably a few months away, but we'll see what happens. It's DVHS. So we're going to have a look at a bunch of different DVHS players, tapes, and all that good stuff, and explore that exciting world. DVHS. There's an extra hole that makes that work, in addition to, it's that one, isn't it? That's the SVHS hole, and that's DVHS hole, and presumably it's a better quality tape. Highest quality perhaps, until you go to WVHS, and fingers crossed we'll be taking a look at that too, so stay tuned for that.